Hey everyone, it's Bobby, and we are back talking about this camera right here, the Nikon Z50. Nikon's mirrorless APS-C format camera. Is it the right camera for you? Let's find out. So like all our reviews, we are not paid or sponsored by anyone, but I do want to thank Nikon Singapore for providing the camera and the lenses for this review. Having said that, let's talk about the Z50. Now, there's been a lot of reviews on the Z50 out there. I'm not going to go through every single spec because they have it on the website, and you've probably seen many videos before this one to decide if it's the right specs for you. Anyway, I'll go through the basics. 20 megapixel APS-C sensor. You've got 4K up to 30 frames per second if you're into videography. You've got 120 frames at 1080. You've got the DX mount is also the Z mount, so you can actually interchange the lenses from full frame to APS-C lenses. I like that. We'll talk more about that in just a bit. It is a smaller form factor than the Z6, Z7, but the same design language. So what does that mean? My pinky doesn't have a home. No home for the pinky. But actually, small rig has a mount that goes to the bottom of this camera that does give your pinky a home. So I recommend if you have larger hands like myself, get that small ring adapter, grip adapter. It's relatively inexpensive, and it does make the camera a little bit more grip friendly for us larger hand folks. Besides that, the controls, the dials, everything is very simple. It is a very user-friendly camera for those who might be intimidated by going to full frame with the Z6, Z7. This brings it down to a very simple form factor, which I appreciate. All right, that's pretty much the gist of the camera. Let's talk about what it's like to use.
Let's go! Hey! Let's go! Hey!
So what's it like to use the Z50? Well, there's an interesting story behind this because my partner wanted a camera for her new business to take photos and videos, and so she was looking for something inexpensive, under US $1,000, you know, before lenses, of course. But even when you buy lenses, the lenses aren't so expensive. And through my research and through, you know, the knowledge base that I have doing reviews here, the Nikon Z50 just kept coming up, and I thought, I should try this camera. I should really get it in my hands, try it, see what it's about, if it's the right camera for her, or it could be the right camera for you. And lo and behold, here we are talking about it, and I gotta tell you, I'm impressed with the Z50. Now, it has a lot of that DNA from the Z6 to the Z7, the Z7 especially, which I've reviewed a couple times already, but it's in a smaller package. Now, it does have a, you know, less in terms of megapixels on the sensor, 20 megapixel APS-C versus a full frame sensor at 47 or 24, but it does really punch above its weight class. The images coming out of this camera are really, really nice. The colors, if you like Nikon colors, you're gonna really like this camera, especially when you're using Z-mount lenses to it, because the images really just pop. Now, the kit lenses are really good. I'll show those in just a second. But when you put on full frame lenses to this, you really see the engineering and the quality that Nikon puts in their glass. And it makes these images really come alive. Sharpness looks good, detail looks good, dynamic range is decent for what it is. I really don't have any complaints about the image quality to this at all. Now, one thing is that if you are the type of photographer that likes to crop in on your images, this 20 megapixel APS-C sensor might be a little limiting for you. So I would say dial in your focal length, make sure that's on point. Because if you crop in a lot, you are going to lose some detail on your images, okay, or your resolution. It's just not meant for that. This is meant for more of a, you know, travel, run and gun, kind of a secondary camera for a lot of people, or even an introductory camera. So you gotta kind of know where your photography is at. Having said that though, if you dial in that focal length, you're gonna get some beautiful images out of this. Now, in terms of video quality, 4K up to 30, 1080, 120 frames per second. So it's pretty much like everything else on the market. Video quality is good. The only thing you're gonna notice though, with video and with photography, is there is no IBIS in this camera. Now, it has been talked about through various different reviews out there, and I will tell you that it is an issue that you sometimes come across, and where you see it in is camera shake. Because the Z50 is so light in the hand, it's very, very light. It's great for travel, but you do notice some camera shake, especially if you're at lower shutter speeds. Now, there isn't a grip that you can put on this that I know of yet. If there is one, you can let me know in the comment section below. But because it is so lightweight, you really just need to position yourself, you know, get the right body position, take a deep breath, and shoot at lower shutter speeds to make sure that your shot is sharp and in focus. Besides that though, it's a joy to use. Now let's talk about the rear display on this. Now you've got a 3.2-inch rear display. It's a good looking display. It's not the highest resolution on the market, but it does the job. You see your images if they're sharp or they're not. Now it does articulate, but it articulates in a very weird way. First you have the, you can do waist level shooting like this. However, you can flip it down like this. Why? I saw that van coming, by the way, so if you thought I was going to get hit, no, I wasn't. Safety first. Yeah, this screen down here is a little odd. I don't know why they did this. A side flip would be so much better. Because if you're using a tripod, you can't use the screen if you want to see yourself if you're vlogging or doing some sort of self-portraits. And then you can sort of see yourself underneath. It's a little bit odd. Not sure what Nikon was thinking with that, but somebody in the engineering department had an idea. We just haven't figured it out yet. Anyway, besides that, the display is good, touchscreen, pretty responsive, no issues at all. The EVF on it's like a 2.36 million dot EVF. It's not the highest resolution out there, but it does the job. You can tell when your images are sharp and in focus. The color out of it's really good, so no issues at all. It's a very fun camera to shoot with. It's a camera that you can take on a trip, throw in your backpack, throw it in like a side duffel bag, and you're not going to be weighed down all day. It's a great B cam for a lot of people out there that are into the Nikon family that want have a Nikon Z or a D850 or something like that, and they go, look, I want a secondary camera. This is great to take with you. It's really, really good. Battery life is okay. It's not phenomenal, but it's decent. Yeah, it's a good all-around camera. It's not too bad. So with that, let's talk about lenses. And we'll talk about this first one that's on the camera right now, which is my favorite lens I've tried so far on the primes for the Z mount, and that is the 85 1.8. Now, there has been a sort of a resurgence on YouTube as of late, probably with about the 50 1.8 and other Nikon primes. This 85 1.8 is a beautiful lens to use. Portraiture, you want a sort of like a little mini telephoto lens to go on the streets with. It's great. It's a sharp lens. I don't see chromatic aberration. I don't see any sort of distortion. It's just a really overall well-made lens, and the images, the color that comes out of this is fantastic. And now the one thing I can tell you this is after trying a lot of Nikon lenses out there, especially for the Z mount, what I'm seeing in the 85 1.8 isn't just in this lens. It carries on throughout the range. So the 24 1.8 I have in the bag here has the same kind of image quality. And they don't come in at an expensive price point considering a lot of mirrorless lenses out there for full frame. They're relatively affordable. Now, yeah, they don't have all the bells and whistles in terms of design and all that to it. It's a really, like nondescript lens. It just kind of fades into the background when you look at it. There's nothing that goes, wow, look at it. It's not like when you use an f-mount lens, it's got a nice gold ring. It's not, none of that's there. But when you look at the images, that's what we're talking about. This lens is beautiful. So I was talking about the image quality in the 85 1.8. All that comes right over here into the 24 1.8. This is a great street lens. On this camera, it's about equivalent to about a 35 millimeter in terms of focal length. It's not a super fast lens, but the ISO performance in the Z50 holds its own, so there is no issue with, if you want to get some low light shots, you're gonna get some decent shots out of it. But yeah, performance is great. It's lightweight on the camera. I mean, what's there to say? It's just like the 85, guys. 85, the 50, the 24, the whole range, it's all pretty much the same. And if you want to talk about autofocusing speed, is there a difference between the DX lenses and the Z mount lenses? None at all. It's actually the same. Autofocus on the Z50 is very, very fast. As a matter of fact, I think the firmware 3.0 for Z6 and Z7 brings it up to speed to this. I think maybe in some ways it's a little bit better on the Z6, Z7. We're going to be doing a review on that and testing it out. But this locks on quick. Eye tracking, no issues at all. Easy to switch between whatever eye you want. Yeah, good performing lens, good performing camera. let's talk about a legendary lens in the Nikon lineup, the 105 1.4 f-mount lens. Look at this thing. The Z50 became a lens cap. Look at it, it's a beast. Anyway, this lens is beautiful. Not the sharpest lens out there at 1.4. It's got a dreamy bokeh. Everything melts into the background. Great for portraiture. If you want to shoot a woman or a guy who's very insecure about his skin, they're gonna love this lens. It's beautiful, it's stunning. Now, of course, this lens is about equivalent to a 135 in terms of focal length, they're about 125, 135. I don't have a calculator on me. Someone will correct me in the comment section below. It usually happens, but yeah. So you gotta take into consideration that, but if I step back quite a bit, we can get this in. Oh, look at that. The background is annihilated. I don't even see it. It's just blobs of color. What a lens. See this? Oh, get off my leg, arm, damn fly. No, no means no. Go home. Got it? No. Move my arm up. It's like, what the f, are you my friend? Got away. You see, watch, watch. So I went from a dream lens to the kit lenses now. Now you might think, wow, there's a huge difference. Obviously price point and image quality. You might be surprised. So this is the DX1650 3.5 to 6.3, which is equivalent to your 2470 for full frame if I do the conversion. However, this is a much slower lens. Okay, 3.5 to 6.3 means lower light scenarios, you're going to be wanting a faster lens. If I'm going to shoot inside a building or a bar, or I'm at a nightclub, I'm going to struggle with this lens a little bit, okay? However, if I'm traveling, walking the streets of Europe, or if I'm on a trip somewhere at the ocean or at the beach, this is great in daylight. This is fantastic. And it's a very, very light lens. And when you put it together, it becomes like a pancake. It's very tiny. Look at this. This is how you travel with it. Now, it is a telescopic lens. It doesn't feel as high quality as the Z mount lenses. Okay, it is a kit lens, but it is a very sharp lens for what it is. So overall, I mean, nowadays you get the Z50, you get this lens and you get the other one sort of in a package. Why not? Take it. You might be using this lens a lot better, more than you thought you would, because it is sharp, it is lightweight, it's easy to carry around, and for video, I'd vlog with this all day long. Just don't flip the screen down, because you won't be able to use it. But like this, I could have a coffee, I could have a beer, not all day long, but you know, at least a good 15 minutes. Then I'd have to hold this up, because I'm not that strong. So let's talk about the last lens in my bag and the second of two kit lenses that come with the Nikon Z50. This is the DX50 to 250 4.5 to 6.3 variable aperture telephoto lens that pretty much covers most of the focal length you'll ever need in your lifetime, and some that you'll probably never use. It's equivalent to about a 70 to 300. You go to full frame equivalency on this. It's not the fastest lens out there. Build quality is very similar to the 1650. It doesn't feel as premium as the Z mount lenses, but again, it is a kit lens. But kit lenses are not kit lenses like they were a few years back, okay? This is a very sharp lens, produces beautiful image quality. It works well. It's just not the greatest for low light performance because of the aperture, but besides that, it's a really good lens. And look at that telescope. Look at that. Telescopic zoom. This is a very excited lens. Very, very excited. Go down, go down, go down, go down, go down. But let's talk about Nikon as a whole. Now, obviously the camera market is it's in very challenging times, and Yeah, the numbers for Nikon maybe don't look so good on paper, but Nikon makes some really good camera systems. And I don't think they've gotten a fair shake out there by a lot of YouTube reviewers out there, or people that shoot for social media and stuff like that. And yeah, there's marketing behind a lot of this stuff, and I'm not gonna get into all that. That's another video for another day. But what Nikon's done with the Z6 and Z7 is pretty impressive. And in some ways, they're ahead of the game. They got an XQD card slot in there, which is now upgradable with the firmware to CFast Express, which is the fastest card you can put into a mirrorless camera system right now. It's insanely fast. You've got IBIS in both of those cameras. Not in this one, but in those. You've got great colors, great color science. You got good video quality to it. I mean, and they keep coming up with firmware updates to improve the camera system, the eye tracking, the autofocus. I don't know why they're not getting a fair shake out there by a lot of reviewers, but I'm gonna tell you right now, and I'm not paid by anybody. No one's given me a camera, no one's asked me to say this. I'm saying this because I've tested a lot of cameras out there. But guys should try the Nikon Z series, even the Z50, if you don't have the funds to go for the Z6 or Z7. They make really good cameras. Yeah, their lenses might not be as fancy in terms of the 1.4, 1.2s or 0.95s, but they produce some beautiful image quality. So those are my thoughts on the Nikon Z50 and Nikon as a whole. Let me know in the comment section below. Do you agree with me about Nikon? Do you like this camera? Do you have a differing opinion? I'd love to hear from you. Like always, follow us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube. Until the next one, take care.